Before we begin, we do have a couple of ground rules that I want to make sure that we all know about. So this is a space based on mutual respect. Although we may not always understand each other, the best thing we can do is honor ourselves and each other by holding space and regard for one another. We also ask that you consider yielding speaking time for those who have not had the opportunity to use their voice yet. Thank you so much in advance. If you have not had a chance to mute yourself, please do, but video cameras are more than welcome, of course. Please take some time to familiarize yourself with the raise hand feature located under the tab that says participants. When it is your time for questions, you will be able to raise the hand feature to signal your question. Or if you would rather, you can use the questions in the chat feature as well. All of our masterclass sessions will be closed captioned. If you would like to turn this feature on or off, click on the CC icon at the bottom of your Zoom panel. You can adjust the size of the captions by locating the Zoom software setting and click the accessibility tab. Additionally, after the webinar is concluded, we would appreciate you filling out a survey and giving us some feedback on today's webinar. The link will be posted in the chat box. This meeting will also be recorded, so tune back in later so that you can get access to this or share with other people that couldn't make it today. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, we would like to introduce our 4 panelists today. Our first is Sarah Wigley. Sarah is a clinical assistant professor of voice for the Lyric Theater Department at the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, where she instructs lyric theater studio, music theater repertoire, and singing in musical theater while maintaining a private voice studio and frequently stage directing both opera and musical theater. Wigley holds an MM in voice performance from Colorado State University and a BM in voice from the University of Minnesota. While residing in Minneapolis, Wigley performed professionally with regional companies such as the Guthrie Theater and Skylark Opera, the Mystery Cafe, the Minnesota Centennial Showboat, and the Minnesota Opera. Miss Wigley's Denver credits include roles such as Aldonza in Man of La Mancha, Emma in Jekyll and Hyde, Dolores in The Wild Party, and Miss Scarlet in Clue the Musical. Sarah has served as faculty for the Music Theater Department at the University of Northern Colorado, as well as Parlando School for the Arts in Boulder, Colorado, and has several students appear on Broadway and in national tours and regional theaters across the nation. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you.
Now, Natalie Randall is currently residing in New York City, but originally from Springfield, Illinois. So welcome, we welcome Natalie. Natalie attended Western Illinois University for music and English education. You can catch her in the movie The Ghost Who Walks that was released on Netflix last year. Her national tour credits include Vocalocity, and NYC regional credits include Dreamgirls at the Portland Center Stage and Cape Fear Regional Theater, A Night with Janis Joplin at North Carolina Theater and Zach Theater, the Gorey All-Stars String Band at NYMF, and she was also the Outstanding Performance in a Supporting Role recipient, Caroline or Change, Astoria Performing Arts Center, and The Color Purple at White Plains Performing Arts Center. Her Insta and Twitter handle is at NATTALYEE, and you can find her at natalie.com. Welcome, Natalie. Anna Benoit received her BMA in Lyric Theater from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. With Lyric Theater at Illinois, she performed as Sally Bowles in Cabaret, Rona Lisa Peretti in the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, Tess in Crazy for You, and in the ensembles of The Cunning Little Vixen, La Boheme, Pirates of Penzaz, She Loves Me, and The Light in the Piazza. She also participated in a workshop of Take Flight under the direction of Richard Maltby and Kevin Stitties. Other favorite shows include Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady, and Our Town with Ozarks Actor Theater, and Mamma Mia, Sister Act in Newsies at the Legacy Theater. Anna won a Broadway World Regional Award for Best Supporting Actress in a Drama for her roles in Our Town, and also won a first place award in the National Society of Arts and Letters Musical Theater Competition. Welcome, Anna. And finally, we have Seth Wheeler. Seth is the events technical coordinator at Krannert Center for the Arts at University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. As a member of the events department, Seth handles the technical side of Krannert's marquee season, which consists of mostly touring artists, from acts as intimate as a one-man Shakespeare plays to acts as large as the Shanghai Ballet. Before his current role, Seth worked at the Hoagland Center for the Arts in Springfield, Illinois as the building manager and technical coordinator. Working in such a place as Hoagland Center for the Arts, he was highly involved with the Springfield theater community and was part of many directing and stage management teams across various Muni and STC shows. Seth lives in Champaign, Illinois with his fiance and their rescue cat, Boo, and is anxiously awaiting the return of live audiences to our theaters. Welcome, Seth.
Hi, everybody.
All right, so that is our panelists today. I'm going to let them just do a little bit more introduction, just give a couple minutes to quickly anything that I missed or things that they want to kind of get things kicked off, and then we will start with some questions, okay? So if you have the questions, I see we have a couple in our chat already. We will definitely make sure that we get to those in just a little bit. So let's start with Sarah.
Hi, everyone. Well, thank you for that introduction, Jacob. It's great to be a part of this and meet some new people. I'm excited to hear some questions, but something I would add, if you're all wondering what does my future hold right now, which many of you might be, is that when I was in high school thinking about what am I going to do, the one thing I told myself is I'm just going to take as many opportunities as possible and not say no to really almost anything, whether it's creative or artistic. And I had no idea. I had zero idea. I didn't think I wanted to be a teacher. I didn't think I wanted to, I had no clue. And so I feel really fortunate to be on a panel to talk about this now. But I just want to say, have hope that things really will get better in the arts, and that if you feel like you should have it all figured out right now, you really don't have to. That's just all I want to say right now.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Natalie.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I'm also super excited to hear your questions and answer and help in any way that I can, and give you the honest feedback that I can give you, and, you know, give you some hope and drive to get to school, to get to New York City, LA, wherever you're trying to go. There's so many options just besides musical theater, and that's what I'm really here to help people explore. So if you have questions, even outside of theater, you know, talking about teaching, film, voiceover, there's just so much that we forget about that I wish I knew about before I started. So if you have any questions like that, please feel free to ask.
Great, thank you. We are looking forward to hearing more of your experiences. All right, Anna.
All right. So I just graduated this past May, and what a crazy time to be in the theater industry. I know it's very scary, but I'm so excited that you're all here and interested in pursuing performing arts in any capacity in college. I think that's wonderful. If you have any questions about what it's like to be a student, or what it's like in the summers in between semesters, and how to make opportunities for yourself and all that kind of stuff, I would love to hear them. And I'm just so excited to be speaking to you. I think it's awesome that, you know, you're taking this opportunity to ask questions, because I think that's wonderful, and you get to learn so much. So I'm excited.
And we had to make sure that we got our technical side of things, and kind of we have Sarah, Natalie, and Anna who can definitely walk you through a lot of the acting aspect, and but I think Seth's gonna bring a really great voice as well to this conversation today. So I'll let Seth introduce himself too.
Thanks, Jacob. Oh, I certainly don't feel worthy to be on this panel, given who my other panelists are. So thank you so much for inviting me to speak. And yeah, echoing kind of what Sarah was saying, I didn't know what I wanted to do, you know, even as early as my sophomore year of college. And, you know, theater is something that I just sort of stumbled into, and then from there stumbled from on stage to backstage to, you know, into the office, you know, of a theater. So I wish I would have had something like this when I was in high school, you know, to ask questions and know more about theater than, you know, it's just the people on the stage and the story, and even that's so much. But when I started getting more curious about, well, what is theater like outside of Springfield, Illinois, and thinking about, well, there certainly has got to be people who are working behind the scenes, and it's not just a full-time job for actors and actresses and singers, and it's there's got to be more to what people see. And so I started asking questions, and this is where I ended up today. So happy to be here.
Great, thank you. Well, we have one I think a very kind of broad question that was posed in our chats from Joseph that I think hopefully will get us kicked off, I think, in the right direction here. So he asks, so how can I be an actor? So we'll start there. It's kind of a big broad question, but let's get that. Whoever wants to tackle that first, go right ahead, unmute yourself, and let's hear it.
Hi, Joseph. If you're interested in acting, I would say just start going to auditions. There's community theater everywhere, and just give it a shot. And I would say go to any auditions you can, and really you're exposed to a lot of acting, like with TV and with everything. Like you know what it is, you're interested in it. So I would just give it a shot. There maybe not, I mean, this summer it's so tricky to get into theater right now just because not very much is happening. But when opportunities open up, just go to auditions, and you learn by doing it, truly. And yeah, there are lots of, even on YouTube, there are teachers and everything who will talk about it, and just start, I would say. There's no real.
So I am scared of being in front of people. I am scared of being in front of people. Can you tell me how that went for you, how you were scared in front of being in people?
Yes, of course. I think auditioning and being in front of people it's one of the most vulnerable things you can do, because when you're in live theater, it's you. There's no cut, let's try again. It's just you. But how exciting is that? Like, if you mess up, if your whole cast is there to help you and get you through it. And auditions, I would say, are also, I think, traditionally a little bit nerve-wracking, but the more you do them, the easier it will get. I really think that. And you have to remember that all of these directors and the people who are casting the show and putting you in what they're working on, they want you to succeed. No one's sitting there wishing you mess up. Everyone is sitting there hoping that you are the best person who walks in that room. And it's usually much more supportive than your mind makes you think it is. Like, they want you to be perfect for your show. So everyone in there is very, very supportive. And it is scary. Like, I'm not going to lie, I still get nervous before auditions, but just remembering that, if you practice and you're prepared and you do the best you can do, that's kind of it.
Hannah, when I was watching Saturday Night Live today on TV, and they are good at acting. They're good.
Yes. They really are. But, they all started in community theater and in smaller places too, and everyone just works their way up. You don't just wake up one day and you're on Saturday Night Live. So they all have their own journey, and I think, why not just start it, right? But good question. If anyone else has any input.
Yeah.
I would say to anybody or to Joseph, a great way that you can always get started and something that can help you with the nerves is getting into a class. And if, I know sometimes money can be an issue for people, or you're trying to find something that's free. Just like Anna was saying, there's so much on YouTube. And that's one thing I really try to tell and urge people is go to class. Train in your craft as much as you can. Even if you can't end up going to school for it, you can, still get an acting class that might be in your town, or, find an acting class on YouTube, or now that everything is on Zoom, there's so many cheap alternatives that we found, instead of going in person because of everything happening. So I would just say, yeah. And some cool things that have helped me. I took some improv classes that really helped me loosen up when I went to commercial auditions and that kind of stuff. And it's just, to me, it's super fun, and it gets it flowing. So then when you do have to go on stage, or you do have to go in front of a casting director or something like that, or you're auditioning for school, it's a little bit easier. So yeah, just something that I would say is getting into a class or really researching on YouTube or reaching out to people you know in the community. Jacob and Jen, I'm sure, could help somebody, hopefully. Not to put them on the spot. I should only speak for myself. I can help someone, but things like that. So hopefully that helps.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Natalie. And yeah, just if you are in the Springfield area, the Springfield Theater Center, we do have lots of opportunities to get involved and to start honing your crafts. So definitely reach out to us, Joseph, afterwards, and we can get you hooked up to some of those different opportunities. This is another good question that kind of feeds into this a little bit. Natalie talked a little bit about kind of the education and kind of finding ways to get into class and educate yourself. So this is probably a good question for Sarah, is what are, and probably Anna too, but what are the advantages of seeking higher education in the performing arts versus just getting the experience on your own?
That is a really good question. Training, I think, is so crucial because there's natural talent. And of course, we know the movie stars that were able to just go out and be famous without a bunch of training, but that's not the majority of us. The majority of us need a craft, and a craft is honed. And the thing that honing your craft does, which means a lot of training in the technical tools of what am I doing? When I sing, what is happening? When I act, how do I decipher role by role and voice by voice and movement by movement? What am I doing? What's the difference between ballet and hip hop? Is that then you're ready to meet anything head on with at least a tiny amount of information so that you can be prepared. Because as we know, the world of live performance, we don't know what's going to happen after this pandemic is done, but it was starting to be, everything is intermingling, right? We've got visual art and dance movement and musicianship and all these different facets coming together. And what training does is it prepares you to be ready for anything. Even if you're not an expert, it gives you enough information to be familiar so that you can really confidently present yourself with some basic information. And you'd be surprised. I think it's shocking to me all the time how even in 4 years and working really hard, I'm sure Anna can talk about this, with tons of different types of classes, you still feel like, oh my gosh, I wish I had more, languages. I wish I had more Shakespeare. I wish I had more, ballet or African dance. I wish I had more, but it is a starting point so that you also find out what you are really good at, what you're inherently maybe just gifted at, which you might not know unless you're exposed to it. That's a time the training will really help you with that as well. Those are just, I could go on, but I'm going to let somebody else talk about this.
Yeah, I think taking time to really, like Sarah said, train in a college program is so wonderful for developing skills and all that. But I also, at least for me, it provided 4 years of me figuring out what I like to perform, figuring out what I'm good at performing, figuring out what I like outside of performance. Like, it's a time to figure out who you are as a person, which it is so important no matter what you do, if you're a performer or whatever, to just be a well-rounded individual. And I think college gives you that time, and you meet so many people and do so many things that you may not think is helping your performance career, but it is. Like, the more you learn and the more of a well-rounded human you are, it will apply to how you perform, and it will change everything. But I think college, there is no other place. Like, there was my senior year, I started off in an opera where I was a grasshopper. Did I see that journey for myself when I first began? Probably not, but it was the best time. I learned so much. It was incredible. And I never would have gotten that opportunity outside of, my program and just where I was in college. And then I went on to do Sally Bowles and cabaret. Like, how do you get that anywhere else in the world? So I think it is an incredible time to just figure out what you like performing and just like to do things way outside of your comfort zone. And it's amazing. I would advocate it for everyone. It's wonderful.
And
And Natalie
just,
had sorry, Seth, I was, we'll let you go and then we can go over to Natalie. Go ahead, you go.
I was just going to say the word that's been ringing in my mind since you asked the question, Jacob, was feedback. You know, in higher education, in a classroom setting, in a, you know, in that kind of thing, you get feedback, good and bad. Feedback was a huge part of my college experience, going through a BFA program for stage management and theater administration. The feedback helped shape, you know, what I liked and what I didn't like, and, you know, where I was good, where my strengths lied and where my weaknesses were. And, you know, it's such a cool space. I think college is such a cool space to practice and to try new things and to not be afraid to fail. And honestly, it's such a cool, it's a laboratory, you know, it's such a cool space. And that's what that's part of what pulled me back to the academic sphere, you know, in taking a job at University of Illinois. You know, it was like, I might not be working in the academic side of things, but I get to work around people who are going through that kind of process right now, you know, both as undergrads and graduate students, and being able to experiment with them and help them figure things out for themselves and say, you know, hey, you're doing a great job on this, or, you know, hey, you're not doing such a great job on that, but that's okay, because we're here and you can't mess up here, you know. So yeah, seriously, I advocate for, you know, pursuing higher education when it comes to this field. Absolutely.
Thank you. And I was just going to say, Natalie has an interesting kind of a unique perspective too, as her major at Western Illinois was English and music education. So I would love to hear Natalie's perspectives too on kind of how education kind of helped launch you into your career right now.
Yeah, I went to school for, like Jacob said, music and English education. But I ended up moving to New York City and doing you know, everything but that. I substitute taught here in New York City, and I have full-time taught for 1 year, but I basically have been doing acting, you know. But with my education degree, I did get voice training, but I never got any formal theater training. So as I tell you to get formal theater training, you know, it's because I did not. And I will say I lucked out that when I moved to New York City, I found some awesome classes and, you know, I dived right in. But I would say, even if you can't necessarily major in musical theater, or, you know, maybe you can only make it a minor, which is totally cool. Just being able to take those extra classes on the side, or maybe try and get in a voice lesson, you know, even if it's every other week, whatever it may be. You know, I didn't necessarily take the traditional route to, you know, doing theater, but I did still audition for the musicals at my school. And hopefully you go to a school that would still let you do that, even if you don't major in musical theater. And they were super accepting, super loving, still let me, I felt like I was in the program because I was doing everything there. But yeah, so I did get the voice training, but I did not get the 4 years of theater training.
Great, thank you. Sophia has a good question that will kind of continue this conversation about college and thinking about how higher education could fit into your career track. But her question is, what is the college audition process like? And then how can you start preparing now? And I believe Sophia is a freshman in high school. So is it too early to start planning? And then what's the process like?
So I can't speak for every school, but I am aware of a lot of different programs, and this is going to depend on, Sophia, if you're interested in musical theater or because it will be slightly different. But I think it's awesome that you're starting to think about this now, because it's never too early, to be honest with you. And I would start with just really getting in touch with what you love doing. What material do you love performing? What do you love singing? What kind of plays or even movies are you really excited about? And start, even now, start reading plays, because one of the most tricky things either if it's musical theater or if it's theater, they're going to want you to audition with a monologue. And I'm sure Natalie can talk about this and Anna can too. But one of the trickiest things is finding a monologue that you really love, that resonates with you as a human, that you get excited about performing. And that, to find that is tricky. And you know, every time I'm on an audition panel, I say, we really just want to know who you are and see you. And people go, oh, sure, they all say that, but it's really true. We really want to know who you are. And the more that you think about what you love to present and who you are, that's already starting to do the work, right? Do I like comedy? Do I like drama? What types of music do I like? What do I like singing? What feels good in my voice? To start playing with that, now we'll kind of narrow down what you love. And then what, of course, is so important is that confidence in the audition room. I can tell you that for lyric theater, which is, of course, kind of a crossover musical theater and opera, more music theater training program, we need 2 contrasting 32 bar cuts. One needs to be lyrical. That just means you can't belt. You can sing something like, you know, If I Loved You from Carousel, or something like Good Night My Someone from Music Man. We just need to hear a sound that's not like a R&B. There's like not riffing. And then the second song can be anything. It can be Carolina Change. It could be something really contemporary. It could be Legally Blonde or Spring Awakening or Fun Home. And then we need a 1-minute monologue. Those are the requirements for the lyric theater program. So it's actually fairly quick. That whole audition process really only takes about 5 minutes, that's why it's good to start now, because I can feel like, whoa, my whole future is dependent on 5 minutes. But some programs are even less than us. Some programs are 1 32 bar cut and a 1-minute monologue. And maybe Anna or Natalie can talk about that process.
Yeah. So, and then on top of all that, a lot of colleges have a pre-screening process. So you'll have to do whatever your audition package is, whether it be 2 32 bars in a monologue or 1 32 in a monologue. You'll film that, which is a whole, obviously everyone's getting good at self-tapes because that's what it all is right now. But you'll film that and send it off. And then they'll accept you for a live audition. And then you'll go to the college, assuming, you know, COVID resolves itself, you'll go to the college and have a live audition for them, and you'll do the same package. And then they usually have you, for musical theater, they usually have you do a dance portion as well. So that's how a lot of musical theater auditions are. And then theater auditions, I can't say that none of them want a song, because I'm sure some of them would like to hear a little bit of singing, but it is usually, from what I understand, 2 contrasting 1-minute monologues. And that's what they want to see. And again, usually there's a pre-screening process and then you go in person, but it can be pretty overwhelming. So I think it's wonderful that you're thinking about it now. And yeah, I would also say, you know, be in lessons and train and all that stuff, but especially now in COVID, and this can apply not just for college auditions, but for any material you're working on, so many more people and artists and performers that maybe you know from Broadway shows you've seen or just things, they are available for coachings. So now is a wonderful time to reach out to people and schedule coachings with a variety of different people. And then you get input from all sorts of different sources and coaches and directors. And I think the more input you get, the better. It's exciting to do it for a lot of different people and just see what they say. But you have so much time. So I think it's wonderful you're working on it now, but don't stress too much. Just have fun and yeah, think about what you like to sing and what you like to perform. But yeah.
Quick follow-up for you, Anna, was what is the, I guess, what was your process when you were like researching schools and stuff? Like, was there any like databases or things that you found, or how did you get connected with different schools?
Yes, that is, it is just such a, I don't want to scare you. It is a lot. But really you just research. First of all, you research the program and just see what their curriculum is like. And then honestly, I found a lot of like social media and YouTube and seeing like I don't know, people talk about different schools, people write blogs about things, people, I don't know. And what I think is interesting is when you go to see shows, this is what I do. When you read all the bios, you see where people went to school, which is, it's just interesting. And then you get ideas and you go. But I went to the University of Illinois and I fell in love with it. I went to a summer camp. And I know a lot of people do that over the summers in high school. They'll go to different camps at different schools. And I fell in love with it. So it's just different for everyone, and Google is your friend. Going to visit the campus is lovely, and yeah, you just learn a lot from. And if you can have voice lessons, assume, like, depending on how far away the school is, if you can have a voice lesson with one of the instructors there, or if you're going the theater route, you know, not a voice lesson obviously, but a coaching with either a student, a grad student, or a professor, you will learn a lot about the program, I think, even from an hour coaching. So yeah, just do your research, but you have so much time. Again, yes, just enjoy it. Just enjoy, you know, being a freshman and just loving to sing and all that stuff.
Great, thank you. A question for Natalie specifically from Nadia. Nadia wants to know, how is film acting different from musical or live theater? Oh.
Sorry, I hit stop my video instead of unmute it.
Like, she went away from us.
You would think I've never been on Zoom before, but that's all I did during this pandemic. Good Lord. So sorry about that. Yeah, so the biggest difference for me when I started taking film TV classes is just in musical theater, it's usually so big, so animated. For anyone who is in Springfield, you know, if you've worked at the Municipal Opera in Springfield, Illinois, you know, you could be singing to 1,000, 2,000 people. So you have to be like super big so that 2,000 person in the back can see you. Or if you've been to the St. Louis Muni, think about that. That's like 12,000 seats or something crazy like that. So you're really trying to be extra big so everybody can see what's happening. But on TV, or TV film, you know, it's more like real life. So a lot of it is, and this is just me giving the easiest answer that I can give, you know, quickly, is a lot of that is taken back, and just me as my personality, I'm very big and like extra. So it was very hard for me to hone that in and not, you know, be so boisterous and loud and like extra with my movements. And instead it's like, when I'm, you know, talking to someone who's across from me, when you do it in musical theater, you might be projecting, you know, be louder, doing bigger movements. So the people in the audience can really see you. But on TV, you know, if you think about it, when we watch TV or you watch a film, it's this big screen that is right in front of you. And if you think about how would you feel if this big screen is right in front of you and I'm going like this, it would be very overwhelming. So when you do film, it's more laid back, it's more internal inside. If you're on a level 10, you want to take it to like a level 4 or level 3. I remember I had an audition once and somebody was like, can you just deadpan? Like, just stop everything that you're doing, please, because it is so much. And so I like basically did the whole take, and I barely moved. And they were like, that's perfect, thank you. And I'm like, okay, I'm understanding this now. So that's just the biggest difference when it comes to acting is it's more internal, inside, smaller movements, not as much. It's really like, you know, I'm talking to someone who's sitting beside me how I would in real life. That's how you want it to come across on TV film. If we're talking about acting, I don't know if you maybe mean on set or anything like that, but I guess acting wise, that's the hugest difference for me.
Great, thank you. And then back to Anna again. We got a question for you in the chat from Nadia as well. What is a typical semester in college look like? I'm assuming that this is directed to you as an acting major.
Yes.
And then if someone was hesitating to go into a major in musical theater, what would your advice be?
All right. Well, so a typical semester for me as a lyric theater, which, as Sarah said, it's slightly different than a typical musical theater program, but a normal semester for me, my freshman and sophomore year, each semester you would take a music theory class and then a musicianship class, so like ear training, sight singing, and then you would also have your voice lessons, and you would be in a choir. There are several different choirs, and you're in one each semester. And then you would take an acting class and a dance class. I believe that is mostly at freshman and sophomore year. And then as you get out of the, in music history, forgot about that. Okay, and then as you get into your junior and senior year, or even the end of your sophomore year, a lot of time opens up. You're done with theory and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of time opens up to take more acting classes or more dancing or dance classes. But then lyric theater is very exciting because you can take playwriting or a composition or anything that you think that you may be interested in. You can explore. There's time to explore that, which is one of the reasons I was so drawn to the program. There's anything in the artistic realm you have time to explore, which is very exciting. So that's how it is junior and senior year. And then on top of that, starting in like sophomore, junior year, you get to take studio classes, which you work on scenes from musical theater and opera, and you do like mock auditions and things like that. So it just grows into more and more like preparing you for auditions or different performances you'll be doing. So it just evolves as you go through college, but you get to explore more and more of what you're interested in. If you love to dance, there is more time to do that. And I think that is the case in most musical theater. Once you get rid of like the theory and your gen eds and all that, you just have a lot more time to do dancing and other acting classes, acting for the camera, things like that. You have more time to explore. So yeah, that is a typical semester for me. And then was there a follow-up? Oh, what if someone was hesitating to go into musical theater? Yes, it is a big decision. I will say it is, it can be very scary. But I will say that, first of all, you can always change your mind. And second of all, I will say, even if you're in a musical theater major, there is time, and you can make time to either double major. It might, take some summer semesters or whatever, but you can double major. People say it's impossible. I really don't think it is. Or just take classes outside of your major. There's no rule against that. You can do that. It's college. If you make time for yourself and you make that decision, you can definitely do it. And you'll be very busy, don't get me wrong, but there is time to explore things outside of musical theater. And like I said, I think that's very healthy, and I think that you should explore other interests. There's no reason not to. So again, it's a big decision, and I'm not saying it's not, but if you are a musical theater major, you can make time for yourself to learn about other things or to take classes in other subjects. I did, and I loved it. It was wonderful. And I stuck with my major because that was for me. And if I decided it wasn't, so what? Change your major. There's no reason not to. So, but it is a big decision, but I think you know what you want to do. Yeah.
This just came into the chat, and this is actually a good segue into our friend over here, Seth, has been who hasn't as many questions directed to him. So this is a great question for Seth. If someone is wanting to go into behind the scenes arena of theater, what would your advice be?
This is kind of touching on, again, kind of what Sarah had mentioned earlier. Look for opportunities to volunteer. Again, growing up in the Springfield community theater arts scene, it's almost daunting to try to like get your foot in the door at first, but then it seems like once you break that seal, you opened up a whole new world to yourself of people, of places to experience theater, to get involved with theater. And again, so I think for high school level, if you're not transitioning quite into college yet, get in touch with somebody at a theater company or a friend who's a part of a production and say, I want to be a set of hands. I don't know what I want to do. I just want to be a part of the process. And, because like I said, I didn't know about the whole non-acting world of theater when I first got into it. I figured it out on the fly, kind of a pun there. But, it took me until my junior year of college to really experience the bigness, the world of lighting and sound design and scenery and flying and stage management and that whole world. And it crushed me at first. I was like, wow, I feel like I'm out of my league. But then once I figured out what my niche was, kind of where I felt most adept, it started to feel like home again, And so I guess my advice would be, yeah, just look for opportunities to volunteer, to be somebody else's assistant or shadow, or just learn by being in the room. Don't put so much pressure on yourself to be like, I don't want to be the lighting guy for a show, or I don't want to take on, that big responsibility of painting an entire set, or, you will be welcomed, especially in a volunteer community theater type setting. You will be welcomed as a part of their crew, no matter in what capacity they give to you. That will start answering more questions as you get involved, as you start to meet more people, ask more questions, even if it's just for a day or a weekend. That's entirely helpful to figuring out, what behind the scenes aspect do you want to go into? Are you a creative type, or are you more of a nuts and bolts kind of a person? Yeah, it's a big world, and it's I love leading people to that path.
A quick follow-up question: what other career possibilities are out there for people who maybe are not, the on stage type of people, but what other things can people get involved with?
So if you're, liking what you see when you go see a play or a musical or an opera or something like that, right away, lighting. There's a quote on the lighting board right across the hall from my office here, and I think it's something to the effect of, without lighting, theater is just radio. And yeah, you got to be able to see. It's lighting is one of those cool things where it's not just about putting lights on a stage just so you can see people. Lighting is one of those things that helps tell a story also. So it's not only practical, it's part of the creativity of the whole process. So if you're feeling like you like the creativity aspect of storytelling, lighting is a great place to go. You've also got audio, as Natalie was saying, at the Muni, both in Springfield and St. Louis, it's easier to reach the back of the house when you've got a microphone on. And that's a whole nother world by itself. You've got to think about, what kind of sound effects are enhancing your show? How many microphones do I need for a cast of 26 singers? Audio is, again, it's one of those cool realms where it can mix creative types as well as just the nuts and bolts, kind of nerdier guys like me who just want to work with the technology. And then you've got things like scenery and set painting, set building. I've worked with some amazing set designers so far in my life, and man, they are impressive people. They are the nuts and bolts in math people, who have to know, so much science. They're the science behind theater. That's just the way it is. But yeah, set building and set painting, as Jen could say, Jen is an expert set painter. But again, that's part of the creativity. Do you want the sets to look flat and non-dynamic, or do you want them to help tell the story? Do you want to make your set look like a storybook? That whole thing. It's just, there's so much to it. Just like any of these other, I'm rambling now. But those are the creative types. You got properties in there, set props, which is also cool. And then you get the side that I was most interested at first, which was stage management and theater administration. Stage managers, they are in big productions. Once the show opens, it's their show. They have to know who the people are, where they're going at all times. They know the show probably just as good as the director, if not better, because they study the script like crazy. Stage managers are amazing people. And then you have the theater administrators who, they make sure the money is there. They make sure the people are in the right place at the right time. And they help put all of those creative types together in one room and say, make magic. And I love that part also.
Great, thank you. This question kind of can go for, I guess, to all four of you. But how or when did you decide to become a performing arts professional, or to study performing arts? What clicked for you?
I would say for me, I didn't really ever, I think, intend to do it professionally, but it wasn't until I like the first professional musical theater show I ever did was Hairspray in Sullivan, Illinois. So that's not too far from Springfield at Little Theater on the Square, basically next door. And it just opened my world up to so many opportunities and realizing like you can do this for a career. This can be like the real deal thing. And even with moving to New York City, it was always like a dream, but I never thought it would, happen. I would visit my friends there every summer since I was like 17. And I didn't move to New York City till I was 26. So I would visit like every year. I would go out there for auditions, do different things. And then finally, I had to sit down with myself, and my friend said to me, and I thank her for this every day. She said, you always talk about moving out of Springfield, but she's like, you haven't done it. And literally after we had that conversation, I bought a one-way ticket to New York City. And the rest is history from there. So I would say for me, it just kind of like, I know that's cliche, but it just happened. But it was hard work once I got to New York City. That's the thing. It's like when you do go, if you do the back planning, it's a little better. For me, I didn't plan very well. I just kind of showed up. So it took me like a year to actually like get my foothold and like know what was happening. But I would say if you are like for real wanting to do this, and maybe you want to move to New York City, LA, Chicago has a great theater scene, Atlanta's huge now, DC. There are so many cities besides New York and LA. That's what people forget about. Portland, Oregon, Seattle, there's theater everywhere. Disney World, if you want to work at Disney in Orlando or in LA, start making a plan now. And it's never too early to make that plan. So, when you get there, it's not this scary thing, and if you are able to, and it's something within you or your family's means, if you can visit before you go there. I always tell people that make sure you visit to know that you actually want to live there, because I feel like sometimes people just pack up and go somewhere, and then you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be here. And a lot of people come to New York City and they do that. So I would just, but for me, I just kind of landed there and it ended up working out, but it took some hard work, but I'm super happy that I made it here.
I'll say that again, as a junior and senior in high school, I didn't know if I should major in musical theater or opera or voice or what I should be doing, but I knew that I had to be involved in the arts somehow. And I also sort of had the trust that if I just started training in one of the things, that I could get supplementary training. Like Anna was saying, if I was a voice major, I could get acting training. If I was a acting major, I could get the voice lessons. I could get the dance lessons. I would have a network in a university that would lead me in the right path. I just had to start. I just had to plot myself amidst an arts community and ask questions like you are all doing right now. So kudos to you. This is the first step. Literally what you're doing is the first step. Start asking questions. And I was a voice major, and I did everything I could. I got involved with dance. I did bizarre vocal improvisations for the dance department as they were dancing. I was their accompaniment with my voice. I did summer stock musical theater on the Showboat, which is like a vaudeville thing. And I got to be friends with actors and just ask them questions like, how do you choose a monologue? How do you know how to be in Shakespeare? And they were really helpful. And that's another reason to go to school, is for the network you build while you're at school, where you can constantly ask each other questions and learn from the dance majors. If you're not a dance major, learn from the acting majors. If you're not an acting major, learn from the voice people. If you're not a musician, and figure out what they're doing and how to get the training you need so you can audition for things. And I didn't have a clue as to what I was doing. I just kept saying yes to things and saying, hey, how, just like Seth was saying, I said, how can I be involved? I'm not a good dancer at all. I really don't have that much training in dance, but I really want to be better. And I really want to get to know why you're so good at what you do. So that is really how I started. And honestly, long story short as possible, I was asked to be a professor bizarrely after my master's degree because I had experience in musical theater and opera. And I got a call from a university saying, hey, looks like you might be good at this. Would you like to be a professor? And I had no desire to really even teach. And I said, I don't really know what you're talking about. I don't have an education degree. I just finished my master's a month ago. And they said, I know, but can you come in for an interview? And I loved teaching. And that it found me. It's so cliche again, like Natalie was saying, it sounds like, oh, so cliche, but teaching found me. I was not going to be a teacher. I was going to be a performer. And I taught my first class when I was 26. I became a professor out of nowhere. And I'm still doing that over a decade later because I knew that was where I was supposed to be. And I think a lot of people have that situation where they're like, oh, like maybe like Anna coming to the University of Illinois campus and being like, oh, this feels right. This just feels right. That was me when I was teaching in a classroom. And I really had no business doing so. It just felt really right.
Seth or Anna, do you want to weigh in on the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah. So I got kicked into the performing arts by my younger sister, who said, quit dancing and singing around the house and go do something about it. And and that wasn't until I was a junior in high school and, still trying to figure out what life was. And so, I started on stage, and, that was where I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. You know what? I really like the applause that happens at the end of these shows where you work for 8 weeks, 10 weeks at a time. And then to have that gratification at the end of it for how many ever nights in a row. That wasn't, didn't mean to sound, like it was just for me. I'm just like, appeasing an audience and having them appreciate all the work that everybody was doing to put something on, and then to feel that gratification was so cool. And then when I was again a sophomore in college, I was like, okay, well, I still really like the arts and performing, and like I love the theater and what it is, but I know I'm not going to make a living acting or singing, so I got to find something else to do. And again, I was like, I didn't know, coming from the Springfield community, I really didn't know what that world looked like, but I was curious enough to want to pursue it anyway. And I said, certainly there are people out there making a living doing this, and I want to be one of them. So I took a leap of faith. I went to a very performing arts heavy school as a junior, and they threw me into the deep end, and luckily I was able to swim out of it. But that's how I decided. It was passion that I hadn't felt for anything else up to that point in my life. And I said, I really like this thing. And even though I only do it 1 or 2 times a year, I think it's something that's really cool. And so passion and curiosity kicked me through the door.
That's great.
Yeah. So I did ballet and musical theater for forever as a kid. And then in high school, you start to think about what you want to major in. And I'm like, what do I want to do? Like, should I go a traditional route? Should I whatever? And then I just started thinking, I'm like, I am never happier than when I'm doing shows. And so I took a leap of it, and I was like, all right, this is what I have to do, because I can't really imagine my life without it. And then I'm not going to lie, it is hard. You think about it and you're like, ooh, Broadway, all these lovely things. But then eventually you have to come to, you have to have a real conversation with yourself, and you're like, am I okay with getting rejected 8 times a week? Am I okay with going to all these auditions and hearing no? Am I okay with there are very hard things. It's not exactly an easy path. And then I came to the conclusion, it's like, yes, I am okay with that. And I will do the hard things because this is what I want. So I think there are several steps to deciding that this is really what you want to do forever, because it is scary and it's hard, but if that's what you decide and you can't really imagine your life without it and you're okay with the rough, the rough part of the business, then it's all worth it, I think. Yeah.
Great, thank you. We have a question from Jillian for Natalie. You talked a little bit about some of your film and TV experience, but can you maybe expand on even a little bit more? I know you did some other voice acting too, and commercials and stuff like that. So I guess maybe talk a little bit more about your experiences there.
Yeah, so when I moved to New York City, I just had musical theater on the brain. Broadway was the end goal, and then you know, I did musical theater. I did some regional gigs, but Broadway was definitely not panning out the way I wanted it to. And I like, if I'm being 100%, I needed money, and so I was just like, well, what am I going to do? And then I was talking to my friends. They were talking about, well, you could always do commercials, you can always do this, and I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like I'm someone who could do commercials. I don't feel like I'm someone who could do film and TV. Like, all I've ever known is musical theater. And that is actually what helped. That's one of the reasons why I also got into improv, was for commercials. Because a lot of commercial auditions that I've experienced are, especially nowadays, they're improv based, where they might give you 2 or 3 lines to come in with, and then they kind of just want you to do your own thing. I am a naturally comedic person, so that kind of worked in that sense. But then there are also commercials that are scripted, where you come in and you do just say the lines and that kind of stuff. And I remember my first commercial audition I got. It said that they wanted someone who was like super into improv, and I was like freaking out, so that I like signed up for some free improv class that I found online, and I took it, and I showed up to the audition, and I was like, it is what it is, like, we're here now. And I ended up getting it. It was a major brand, and I don't know how old people are here, so I won't say what it was, but it was a major brand. And I that just opened the doors for me with with doing commercials. And since then, it's basically what I do now. I still do musical theater, but during especially during COVID times, it's been commercials, and then to voiceovers. Another thing, I never thought I could be a voiceover actor. And the agent that I had at the time, she was like, oh, the voiceover department needs a singer who can also rap and speak whatever for some like cartoon or something. And I was like, oh God, like, I can't do this. I did not book that job, but from there I ended up booking voiceovers, like for video games. I've done video games. My end goal now is like, I would love to do, like a reoccurring cartoon character. I've done a lot of commercials where it's just like, a grocery store ad or like that kind of stuff. But I never knew that my voice, could be something special like that, or even thought about it. But, once I did it, it opened, my eyes, and opened like so many doors for me. So that's why I tell people, like, look at all of the paths around you while you can, especially when you're like in college, because that's when you can really play around, and people, they don't take it as serious. So if you mess up, people aren't like, oh my gosh, like, she messed up. It's as you start, getting older, they expect you to know more. I'm 33 years old now. They expect me to know a little bit more than if I come in fresh faced, I'm 22, they're going to give me some forgiving grace. So if you come in, already knowing all this stuff, like, you're going to look like, basically like a professional athlete, because you already know it all. So, that's some of the stuff I've done. And if you go to my website, you can see, it's just natalie.com. You can see some of the stuff I've done, or on YouTube or on my Instagram. I have a few things posted that I've done voiceover wise and commercial wise that you can check out if you'd like to.
Great, thank you. So this question probably for Sarah and Anna. Sarah and Anna with the Lyric Musical Theater. But I guess what are some ways that an arts education or a musical theater program helps you kind of prepare for after graduation? So I know a lot of times people think about equity cards, and they think about being having the equity card to help them. So do you want to talk a little bit, I guess, what are some preparation things that theater programs can do for students?
I'm gonna let Anna take at least the first part of this, because she's just fresh off of the program.
Well, I would say there's a lot that musical theater programs and theater programs, lyric theater, everything does to help that's kind of the goal, is to prepare you for the real world. But again, it all comes back to your training. Like, how will your voice hold up? And especially now, there are so many, I'm just talking about musical theater because that's kind of my thing. There are so many different genres and different just like types of musicals. Every audition you do will be a different, like, you will be expected to produce a different type of sound. Like, if you're auditioning for The Sound of Music one day and then you're auditioning for like Chicago, you are not going to use the same you're not going to use the same song. So you have to be able to have well, like a book, an audition book, a rep book full of different songs. And who's going to help you sing all these songs in, you know, an audition ready way? Your professors and your musical theater repertoire classes. You're going to learn. It's basically just a mock audition all day long. You're singing and getting critiques on these songs that you're going to use in the real world. So they're getting you ready with things you can use. You're learning how to pick up choreography quickly in dance classes. You're learning technique. You're learning you know, how to hold yourself in an audition. You're learning how to find repertoire for yourself. You're learning so many different things in a safe environment. You're getting to practice, and then you're getting feedback. With what happened, there are no repercussions. Nothing happens. It's the most low stakes thing ever. You're getting to practice your craft, and you're getting feedback, and every time you're getting better. So yes, and then ultimately that is preparing you for the real world. You go to auditions, and then yeah, you're hoping that your training works out. And then with I know Jacob brought up the equity card. During the summers of your college, you are usually auditioning for regional theaters, which may or may not, it's a whole big, this is, oh goodness, they may or may not offer equity cards or equity points. There's an EMC program, which is, you have to earn points with every week you work at like an EMC qualified theater. You get a point, and once you get to 25, they offer you your card. You can take it or not. And once you're an equity member, that's when you can work at like the bigger theaters, Broadway, and just bigger theaters. So you're ultimately working toward that goal if musical theater is your choice. So I don't even know if that answered the question, but it's basically just it's preparing you for auditions and just the technique you need to succeed. So yeah.
I'm going to also add that one other thing that a training program, a college or university will assist you with is an extra boost of networking. And you know, we can never promise that anybody we bring to campus, like Anna got to work with Maltby and Shire, who are Broadway composers who have won a Tony Award, and Kevin Stites, who is the Radio City Music Hall music director. He literally is the music director of the Rockettes. So Anna got to work with these people for a couple weeks, and we can't guarantee that they'll give you a job, but you get a much better chance of getting a call from Kevin Stites if you've met him and worked with him for 2 weeks than if he has no idea who you are. So, and most colleges and universities will provide those opportunities of you know, in non-COVID times, flying people out so they get to meet with you, work with you, see your work ethic, see how fast you pick up on things, how can you be directed. We bring in librettists and composers every single year, as well as people that are really, really renowned in their field, so that our students are able to have the opportunity to network. And over the 4 years, you really get to work with some incredible people. And I know a lot of programs do that, so that you're not just off in New York, like with absolutely no kind of network to go off of. It's a little bit, it makes you feel a little bit better if you're like, okay, I'm going to send Kevin Stites an email and say, hey, Kevin, do you have 20 minutes to talk to me about what are some possible casting opportunities coming up? Or like, give me some feedback. I'm going to send you a video. It's really helpful to have some network from a university training ground.
Great, thank you. This might be another question for you too, Sarah. Are there scholarship or financial aid opportunities for performing arts students?
This is going to vary so much between not only school to school, but department to department. So I know that we have financial aid for students. So this is very tricky. For the University of Illinois, it's such an enormous university, right? There's 50,000 people at the University of Illinois. So the Office of Admissions and the Office of Financial Aid are separate from the School of Music. So there are many different types of scholarships. There's a School of Music Merit Scholarship that would be for lyric theater that comes through lyric theater in the School of Music. Then there is the Office of Financial Aid, which is a need-based scholarship. And then there's an admissions scholarship, would be for if you've got like a really fantastic GPA, you have really high test scores, that would be a different scholarship. So there's kind of a three-pronged approach to scholarships, and it can be incredibly confusing. But the other good thing is that, and again, I'm a University of Illinois professor, so that's what I know. Once you're in the University of Illinois, there's actually quite a few scholarships. If you're an undergraduate female, you have the opportunity to audition for a scholarship in the School of Music. If you are a BIPOC right now, like there's many new scholarships out. So like there's a lot of different opportunities once you're in school. If it feels like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to possibly do this. There are things once you're in, there are different types of scholarships. There are grants. We've got a really fantastic Office of Financial Aid to help you with these things, but there's essentially, for everything you're thinking about going into, there's 3 different areas: Office of Financial Aid, the admissions office, and then there's your actual program. Confusing.
Great, thank you. Yes, I think that's very helpful to kind of understand a little bit. It seems like, even though, college might seem, expensive, and, you might have heard that before, but I think there's definitely ways to help make sure that you can find ways to fund that. So thanks for sharing that, Sarah. Anna, you mentioned a little bit in your introduction about your unique opportunities that you had in between your semesters and in the summer. In addition to doing your program, but also kind of those things outside. So I guess can you talk us through those, what you did during the summer?
Yes. So in musical theater during the summer, they call it summer stock. I'm sure you've heard about it, but starting in about February, March, there are a lot of auditions happening for every summer theater in the country. There are just auditions everywhere. And there are united auditions, which means a bunch of theaters come together and you go and you audition for 50 or however many theaters there are there. And there are a few of those. And so you spend a lot of late winter, early spring auditioning for all these theaters and hoping to get a contract at one of them. And then usually the contracts start anywhere from the end of May all the way through the beginning of September. That's about the summer stock season. And you hope to get a contract at one of the theaters. Some of the theaters have multiple show contracts, so you work there the entire summer. Sometimes you get one show, sometimes you get a show at one theater and then another show at a different theater, but you're trying your very best to get a musical theater experience at these different theaters and theater companies. So I had the opportunity the summer after my junior year to work at Ozark Actors Theater in Missouri, and I did a 3-show season there, which was wonderful. I learned so much. It's a very quick process. Most summer stock you rehearse for about 2 weeks and then put on like a 3-week run. And then I rehearsed, so that I did that 3 times in a row for the summer. And it was wonderful. It was very exciting. I met so many people. They come from all over the place, which is wonderful. And then I went back to school and I did all my auditions again. And from the connections I got there, I got offered another job for last summer, which obviously didn't pan out. But I think that is the goal of regional theater. You meet people and then that's kind of how your network starts. Yes, so regional theater is wonderful. And that's what you do in the summers between college, and then even afterwards, summer stock never really goes away. So you just do it as long as you can, I suppose. And then, there are different levels of everything, but it's awesome. And it's a great way to gain experience and meet people and network and get to learn an entire show very, very quickly. So it's lovely.
Can I add to that, Jacob?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to let people know too, I also did some unified auditions, like even though for anyone who may end up not majoring in musical theater or theater for that matter, those auditions, as crazy as it is, are like somewhat open to anybody. I don't know, maybe it's changed, but when I did it, I wasn't majoring in theater, but because I, had my community theater credits at that time, whatever the case may be, they still let me go to the auditions. I think there was only one where I had to have, I think it was UPTAs, where I had to have like a professional credit or something to get in. But Midwest theater auditions, though there was one in Chicago, I forget exactly which ones they were, but they did let me come in an audition, which then in return is where I was able to book. I booked Hairspray and Sullivan, and so then I was able to build up my resume. So as Anna was saying, like it is so beneficial if you can get to those unified auditions to go, because that's also literally how I started my network. So then when I moved to New York City, I was able to reach out to some of those people. But I just wanted to also let people know, like, even if you end up like doing a minor, whatever may happen, you still can, I believe, do those auditions. I don't want to steer anybody wrong because that was years ago when I did that, but I somehow was able to show up and do it. So yeah, definitely still do it.
And just in case anybody's wondering out there, all that summer stock is, they also need, lighting and sound and carpenters. And, there's a process very similar to what Anna was talking about for all the backstage work. If you're in a college program and you started to build up a portfolio of your work, they'll ask to see it. And you'll showcase, hey, I've worked on this show. I've been, an assistant in this department on, on these shows. And they can be selective, but again, it's sort of the same process for anybody who's looking at that side of theater also. To get that, I never had the opportunity to do summer stocks because I sort of joined, late in my college career. But I mean, all of my my colleagues at Millikan, were thick in the swing of like, oh, I gotta get my portfolio ready for all these summer stocks that I'm applying for. And, they'd come back the next year and they'd tell me about, all their summer fun. And it was like, man, I missed out on all that. I was doing Muni, which was just as fun, but still, it's an experience that I wish I would have had, when I was in college. And so definitely don't, if you're like-minded like me and working in the backstage stuff, definitely look forward to summer stocks.
Awesome. Thank you. So we have a couple more questions here, just to wrap things up. We're going to try to get this done by 5:30 to respect the time of our panelists. So this one's kind of a two-parter. So in this could be for all four of you. So what are some of the biggest challenges of working in a performing arts career? And then maybe what are some of the benefits? What are some things that have really, but besides maybe the love of doing theater, but what are some of the other benefits that have come with the performing arts career?
I would say for me personally, the challenge is, this is just me being very honest, as I am a plus size Black woman. So I know I can't see what everyone looks like here, and not that that matters anyway, but it is hard sometimes to be in a career where you are based on your looks. You're based on how big or small you are, how high, how low you can sing, whatever the case may be. So for me, it was a challenge just knowing sometimes it literally came down to, not that my talent wasn't good, but maybe the person I was going to be playing opposite of is 6'2" and I'm 5'2", and that's probably not going to look the best on stage. So they might need someone who's 5'7". So I had to kind of beat those insecurities and know that it literally wasn't always me. One time I literally did not get a job for a national tour because I could not fit the costume. It was like an immediate replacement. And they said to me, it literally came down to that you just aren't going to fit the costume. And we need somebody who can get in this costume basically like in a week, tomorrow, whatever. So I just had to learn, like, it's, not always what you think. So, while you hear those no's, sometimes it literally has nothing to do with you, it's come down to what my hairstyle is, like that kind of stuff. So I just want to, let people know that that's been a challenge for me. But a huge benefit is I'm somebody who kind of likes to blow with the wind. And as a freelancer, someone who just gets to make my own schedule, which I love, you know. And also the best part is I've lived in so many different cities that I never would have lived in a million years. Being on tour, I have visited every state except 7 states, and like Hawaii, Alaska, like some of the harder ones. But like I've lived in Montana, I've lived in Portland, I've lived in Austin, Texas, I've lived in Iowa, like all these places I never would have thought I would live, that I've gotten to live from doing theater. So that's super, super awesome to me. And if you love to travel, you know, this is totally a career to be in. You know, obviously I love being on stage and performing for people and making them laugh, but getting to travel for free is always a fun thing for me.
I'd say a benefit, there's so many benefits, but you never get bored. I mean, you never ever get bored. And that's in I think any facet of the arts, whether you're behind the scenes, whether you're a costumer or a technician or a set designer, or you're an actor, um, or you're a coach. I mean, you're always working with different people, and you're dealing with aspects of humanity, what makes people tick, and it's always changing, and we're always working with different circumstances and different types of people, and art, right? Art is always changing, so you're never ever bored. And I think one thing that for most of us, we never feel like we're going to work is never really truly like working. Like there's always, of course, you're working, but it's also play, because if you're not going to find the fun in it, then there's too many other things. Then you should, I mean, if you can't find the fun in it anymore, then it's like, then you could be an accountant, or then you could be, you know, so that is the reality. Is I truly wake up every day and I feel super grateful that I get to do this, and I get to hear people sing and watch people move on stage, and assist in that process, and meet colleagues that are asking interesting questions and thinking about humanity, and how we can talk about what's happening in the world through the medium of art and performance art. That's a huge benefit, and that is why we, at the end of the day, most of us do what we do. You know, if you really love stability, this is going to be tricky. This is going to be really tricky. If you really like to know you're going to have a paycheck, and you know that you're going to have full benefits, and you're gonna always be able to, like, you know, have contact lenses, and it's going to be covered by insurance. Like, these are things that are going to be really tricky if you're doing freelance. And I'm sure Natalie could talk about that. Like, and you can get healthcare, of course, but that's just something that doesn't come with the game most of the time. It can happen, but it's going to be something you got to kind of nuts and bolts figure out for yourself, or those things that come with, if you're a paralegal, that's going to come with a job. Probably not going to come with a contract for hairspray, you know?
I think, you know, one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in this career so far has been, you got to be ready for multiple days and multiple nights back to back to back, just to work. You know, there's a reason why performers are so happy when a show opens and you hear the applause of a real audience for the first time. It's because they just came out of a week of intense, you know, long nights and running scenes again and again and again. And, you know, it can be tough, and, you know, you gotta figure out when to sleep and when to eat, and that's across the board. I mean, that's, like I said, that's everybody on stage, it's everybody backstage. We're all working towards the same goal, and getting through those weeks. And, you know, even in what I do now, when we have tours coming in right on top of each other, and, you know, we've got these 5 fabulous spaces here at the Krannert Center, and they are mostly, in a normal time, they are all programmed all at the same time, which is fantastic. But that means you are going back and forth, one thing to the next, and making sure that, you know, train A and train B are both running on schedule. And that can be challenging. But that leads me to why I like theater and this job so much, is because it all comes down to collaboration and working together to make a beautiful thing happen. And, you know, that's, you know, the collaboration aspect is something that was preached to me when I was learning and studying theater. And and it didn't take long. I mean, it was like, yeah, duh, that's awesome, because you know, a lighting person isn't going to know what it takes to put a whole costume design together, but they appreciate that that person is doing their job and that they get to light those beautiful costumes every night. And just that mutual appreciation that everybody has for everybody's job is amazing. Because like I said, you're all working towards the same goal. You're all working towards that opening night and that first applause, and it's an amazing feeling. Yeah, so it's the pros heavily outweigh the cons in my mind. You know, it's almost hard to find a challenge in this career that you can't go, yeah, but is it really at the end of the day? You know, like it feels bad, but in the moment maybe, but so as somebody was saying, there's so many good things to this career path and to this artistic world that we choose to live in.
Yeah, and after navigating almost a year of COVID too, there's no challenge, like you said, that you can't overcome. So
yep.
Anna, do you have any thoughts for that question?
Yeah, I just love the community that's formed. Anytime you do a show or even going to auditions, you start running into the same people over and over. And it's just, you know, people everywhere. You do a show with someone who's from California and all of a sudden you have connections all over the place. And there's some of the, in my opinion, some of the best people and some of the best friends to have. And all of my closest friends are theater people. So I think that is very special. And I think it's hard to find that type of community just anywhere. So I think that's wonderful. And there are a lot of hard things, like rejection is not fun. No one likes it, but it's a big part of the job and it takes getting used to. And yeah, I think, yeah, when you think you're close to something and then getting rejected, it always hurts, but there are never going to be no auditions. There's always more opportunities, which is exciting. Something will click eventually, which you're just waiting for it. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. Well, so I have two more questions. I'm going to tell you the last question now, just so you can start thinking about it. The last question that we're going to have is, what would be your one piece of advice for a young person wanting to pursue theater as a career? And that comes from Sophia Flick. So great question. So start thinking about that. But in the meantime, can we expect to see you in anything coming up? Or I guess what are some things that are on the docket for you, or things that you've been doing during COVID? So yeah, we'd love to hear kind of what's going on in your lives right now and what we can catch you in, and then we'll start there, and then we'll go back to our final question. So
yeah, I'll kick it off. I have some video games that I've done some voiceovers for. I can't say what they are. A lot of things you sign NDAs. So on this public platform, I cannot say what it is, but I'm super excited about that, and to have people playing. It will be on PlayStation, I can say that. I have created a documentary, and I have some super cool things happening with that. It's about normalizing Black runners, as I'm an ultra marathoner, and that was my first time actually directing. So I have directed the documentary, and we're in post right now, and we'll be entering that into the 2021-2022 film festival season. So I'm super excited about that. And actually, talking about networking, no one in here is probably on this, but I'm on this new app where I've been able to network with some awesome people and get some like awesome help and awesome feedback. And I'm super excited. And it's been a very humbling process being on the other side, as I usually am. I also was the subject of the film, but to be like the director, the producer, like I'm getting the music, like doing everything like that has been such like a super exciting thing for me. And to still push through with this through COVID has been amazing. But depending on how it goes through the film festival season, I'm hoping to be elevated with it all the way up. But if not, it will be on YouTube in 2022.
Well, we look forward to seeing that, Natalie. Thanks for sharing that.
Natalie, I want to know can you tell us what the name of the app is?
Oh yeah, it's called Clubhouse, and I just realized like no one young's on there, so I was like, but all of you, Clubhouse, I can send you an invite. It's like been a game changer networking wise, and actually even for actors. I've seen people getting agents from it, and there's like casting directors on there who are actually like, you can talk with people and all that kind of stuff. And like now I'm through something I'm doing on there, I've been able to make connections with like legit producers, legit casting directors. Someone from Nike's helping me with my documentary. So it's just like like been a game changer for me personally, talking about networking and how much, you know, that helps and that works. So I'm like super excited about my documentary, and I will actually be having a private screening in Springfield. I haven't like put it publicly because I can't actually post publicly that I'm doing it. Otherwise, it like goes against the rules of pretty much every film festival. But there will be a private screening in Springfield of my documentary, so everyone who donated to the, you know, fundraiser and everything, they can see all the hard work that has been put in. And it's like, you know, it's mind blowing what has happened. So I'm super excited for everybody to see it.
Wow, that's awesome. Lyric Theater right now is producing 5 shows this spring because due to COVID, we can only produce shows if there are basically 4 is the number of unmasked singers we can have at any one time. And that's even outdoors. So we're producing Turn of the Screw by Benjamin Britten, Hand of Bridge by Samuel Barber, Vanessa by Samuel Barber, Last American Hammer, which is a brand new, really cool work, kind of like a crossover opera music theater piece. And then I'm directing a musical called Ordinary Days by Adam Guan, and that actually goes up at the amphitheater of KCPA, so anyone can see it. The audience will be socially distanced very safely, and there's 4 actors that will be actually using the amphitheater for the set so that we can get more people socially distanced looking at the amphitheater while they're acting on the set. That is going to open on April 9th. It's the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and the 16th, 17th, 18th. It's a 90-minute show. And tickets will be available at cranardcenter.com, and they are going to be $10 for a ticket. So short show, really affordable, and we're so excited to have live theater outdoors again.
Putting that on my calendars now. I'm gonna see if I can make that one. That sounds exciting.
So in a roundabout way, my office and me, I mean, we sort of help support what, you know, what Lyric Theater is doing. I designed the seating chart for Ordinary Days outside. the COVID correct spacing and all that stuff. So you can see my work there. But also Casey Cranard Center is working on, I don't know what we're calling it. It's gonna be like a web series with Nathan and Julie Gunn, and there are a couple of professors here at the university, and interviewing just some people connected to the university, connected to Cranard Center, just to not really talk about their work. I mean, but it's really like to get to know the person themselves outside of their work. You know, it's just to support them and you know, and promote their work. But we're starting this sort of like new talk show series called Show Talk, about sort of interesting people within you know, the Cranard sphere. So we've shot a couple pilot episodes for that, and we sort of put them together, and we're sort of piecing things together right now. I worked on the intro and the outro for the show, and yeah, so we're going to be filming more episodes and hopefully releasing those publicly very soon.
Exciting.
I will be in Springfield Theater Center's Broadway Through the Ages. It will be available to watch, I believe, April 9th,
Yes.
I think. So watch that. And then, yeah, the rest is to be determined, but we shall see.
That's good. What do you, can you give us a little sneak peek at what your what you will be singing?
Oh, yes. Okay. With Every Breath I Take from City of Angels and Defying Gravity. Lindsay Rudd is amazing. So you have to watch. You have to watch it.
It'll be great.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're at 5:30 now, so I do want to get to this last question. So I'm going to say 30 seconds or less. What would be your number one advice for a young person wanting to pursue theater as a career?
I would just say, be you. I took so much time trying to change my hair, get the outfit, you know, get the headshot, get whatever. At the end of the day, it comes down to you. If it's for you, it will be for you. Nothing will get in the way of that. And if anybody wants to DM me and hear the stories of that, literally when a show is for you, the part is for you, whatever, nothing will get in the way of that. So just know that whatever you are, someone's going to love it. Somebody will. And for every, you know, 10 no's, you will get a yes eventually. It might take a while, and it could take years, you know. Ask some of these actors who didn't make it till they were like 80, but you'll get that yes if you keep pushing.
I love that. Yes, be you and be curious. Keep asking the questions. There are no dumb questions. And don't be afraid to ask questions. And to anyone, there is nobody, especially right now, that is out of reach. Just ask the questions. Really, don't be afraid.
Try to say yes to as much work as you can in the theater realm. Whether it's working on stage or backstage. If there's an opportunity, especially right now in an exploratory kind of time, try to say yes.
And also, if you're not hearing yeses, you can make your own opportunities and try as many things as possible, even if you think you're not right for them. Yes.
Love that. So that was such a great way to conclude our webinar today. So thank you all so much for attending. We hope you have received some valuable information. We do have one other scheduled event, which is kind of interesting. It's going to be on, Jen, remind me, is it Tuesday?
It's on Thursday.
Thursday, my bad.
April
On Thursday.
1st. April Fool's.
Thursday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. It's not a joke. But we have a Joss Banks, who is a national touring artist. He's going to be talking about vulnerability with acting. So that's going to be our final series, our final workshop for the series. So we would love to see you at that. If you have any other questions, or if you just wanted to check out what we have going on at Springfield Theater Center, visit springfieldtheatercenter.com. And if you do have, if you have a couple of minutes, we would love for you to give us some feedback. So Jen's been posting in the comments our survey link. So take a quick 30 seconds to a minute to fill that out, and give us some good feedback about what you experienced today, and what you're looking for in the future too. So thank you so much. We wish you all the best, and thank you once again to our panelists. Let's give them a big round of applause, and thank them for their hard work and their effort today. So we'll see you all again, and thank you.
Bye. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone.